Hello, everyone. I'm Mickey Duzdovich, Senior Programmer here at the Santa Barbara International Film Festival, and welcome to SBIFF Film Talk. Tonight's film, we're going to be talking about an amazing short film, Souls of Totality, and joining us tonight to discuss is director Richard Raymond. Hi,
Hey,
Richard.
hey, Mickey.
Yeah,
Thank you
thanks for
so much for having me.
thanks for being here. It's always good to see a familiar face.
Yeah, it's you guys at the Santa Barbara Film Festival are as much as second home for any filmmaker for me. So I appreciate it always.
Love to hear it. All right, let's jump into this. Souls of Totality. This was 2018. This is you shot it in 2017 during an actual solar eclipse. But I want to know from the beginning, where did this idea come from? Because it is quite a crazy idea to even try to pull this off.
Well, it was interesting. I hadn't done shorts before I'd done my first feature. So I found the feature film that I directed, Desert Dancer, which had its world premiere at Santa Barbara, was amazing. But, you know, afterwards, I kind of became a little bit stuck. The film wasn't a huge box office success, and the studio that released it in America went bankrupt. So, you know, I was kind of in this rut. And also, I felt a huge artistic shift in my core being. I met the girl of my dreams. I became a father now twice, and I started to see things very differently, and I really wanted to start again. From my own point of view, where you know, I'm very hard on myself, and I want to, you know, try a different type of language of cinema that I wanted to do. So that yearning was always there. And then we had a nanny who was from Oregon. And she said in the summer of 2017, "Oh my God, guys, all the hotels are sold out." And I was like, "Why?" And she's like, "Well, it's the solar eclipse. It's the first full solar eclipse going through the United States for 99 years, nearly 100 years. My dad has a house and he has a field. You guys should come camping in the field, and then you get to experience the eclipse." So I was saying this we had dinner a few weeks later, and I was saying this to some friends of mine. Now, at the table were two actors, Tom Cullen and Tatiana Maslany, and two writers, Ben Boley and Kate Treffry. And as I was telling them this, Ben and Kate were also at our kid's birthday party where the nanny told us this. Everyone was like, "Yeah, well, let's all go camping together. That sounds amazing. August 21st, 2017, let's do it." And as I'm watching them say this, and this is 2 months or a month and a half before the eclipse, I'm thinking, oh my God, we should make a film. Actors, writer, director, let's do it. And so everyone at the table got quite excited. And so we started Googling it. Had it ever been done before? And it had never been done before. There was an old Italian film, I'm probably pronouncing it wrong, Baracus. And that actually it was said that it was shot during an eclipse, but it wasn't. They shot an eclipse and they intercut it with the studio effect. So it had never been done before. And Tatiana in particular got very excited because she immediately said, "It's like theater. That's it. It's just the one chance." And I said, "Right." And so I could see that she got very excited by the challenge. So two things happened. The next day, I and my wife, Nusha, we flew to Oregon to the nanny's house, literally I think it was 2 days later. And we drove around looking for locations. And we ended up meeting the father of the nanny, his friend who owned a farm. And I took loads of photographs of the farm. And I sent the photographs to the writers, Ben and Kate. Now, Ben's a successful writer and Kate's his wife. She writes on Stranger Things, which is kind of the aesthetic. And she had just got the job as well. So she was just about to start. And I said, "Let's set the film here." So they basically tailored the script to the locations because we were running out of time. And then Ben and Kate's brother, John Treffry, has a production company in Los Angeles called 4WT Media. And he's like, "Right, I'll crew it up." So John got the crew. I got the camera equipment from Panavision, who have sponsored me since I was a teenager. They're amazing. Ben and Kate wrote a script, and we had the locations sewn in. And about a week or so before filming was to begin, they gave me the script, and I realized then and then when I read it that I had been given kind of gold dust. This was really good. And I think they were surprised as well, because it was, they just tapped into not they tapped into this amazing story, and Kate and Ben brought their brilliant sensibilities to the script, but they also tailored it for Tom and Tat, the two actors who at the time were in a relationship. And, you know, when you have two actors that are very experienced, very comfortable with one another, you have an opportunity to make a real relationship film. And you know, and to build up to this set piece that takes place in a solar eclipse. So that's what happened. And then everyone piled into vans because all the flights were booked, and we drove up to Oregon, and we camped in a field, and then we shot the film. But from having the idea to finding locations to writing the script to getting it shot was about 6 weeks. And it was funny. I was actually having a meeting with an actor about a feature film I'm doing later this year, and she was like, "How are you going to get this ready for June?" And literally, I was like, "We did this in 6 weeks. 5 months is a luxury. Don't worry."
Well, it was some amazing planning on your guys' part. It's such an incredible film to watch, and the fact that you were able to fit it all into 18 minutes, this 3-part story, is really, really amazing. And I actually want to talk a little bit about the story itself, because it brings up thoughts of Hale-Bopp back in '95, the comet, and Heaven's Gate, the cult behind that, and the mass suicide. I believe it was 39 members ended up passing, and it was such a huge story. And I'm wondering if that's kind of where the idea came from to write this.
Yes, it did, for sure. We were passing articles about that, about the Heaven's Gate cult, and we were reading it. And we were fascinated, not with the fact that they did what they did, but that I remember having this conversation with Kate Treffry that only in America would people believe that they were gonna hitch a ride on an alien spacecraft that was hiding in the tail of a comet. And it's just like, what is it about America that makes people think that that could be true? And that I think was much more of the interest. And looking back now, you're looking back at the era we all lived in with the Trump presidency and the MAGA movement, and you look back and you think, oh, that's probably where this yearning to tell a story of these people that belong to something that other people think of really dark would come to. And one of the things that the writers, I thought, did, which I had never seen before, because there was a myriad of stories set in cults, brilliant ones and boring ones, but none of them had done the subjectivity of being in a cult, whereby everyone always does it, whereby an outsider comes to a cult or returns to a cult, but no one had ever really done something where you're just in it. And there's no outsider. And what's that like? And all the videos we watched of the Heaven's Gate group, they were so blissfully happy. They were like, you guys don't know what you're missing out on. We are fine. And that's what the writers put into the script, which I loved. And I really tapped into that and always reminded the actors that this is the best day of your life. There's no one to judge you. There's no one to say you're wrong. This will work because, you know, this is great. And so that's the aspect of the cult that I thought was really different, and being inside of it, and the slow reveal, the reveal, like the other homage to Heaven's Gate was they're all wearing the same uniform, but for us it's just gray tracksuits. It just wanted something really uniform and really kind of alien looking, like astronaut colors, but it's just a hoodie and a white t-shirt. And Kate Treffry also did the costumes for the film, and she stayed up for hours at night just with like a knife scraping everyone's t-shirt and dust and dirting it to make it look worn. And she painted the sign as well that was on the gate, the souls of totality have exited this plane. And so all of these little things went in there to make it really believable. And I just like the way the film slowly reveals itself. That who are these two people? Why are they saying goodbye to this bus? Oh, they're having a secret relationship. The thing just peels itself one by one and doesn't rely on exposition at all. And we slowly come to realize, Oh, they're with 30 other people. Oh, they're all wearing the same. What are they preparing to do? They're getting exit items. What's going on? The man, the leader of the cult, who, by the way, is the father of the nanny, never acted before, Mike Tague, brilliant looking chap, had to cast him as the head of the cult. But, oh, they're on a timer. What's going on? And so all of that kind of, I just love the way they wrote that. And
Yeah.
I keep talking about the writers because at the end of the day, filming it and creating it, was a huge task. And we were very lucky and prepared to be lucky. We took the opportunity, but you have to start with the written word, and those two really pulled a very, very a big rabbit out of the hat with that script.
I would say they did. It's their words are quite amazing, and it was great to see them come to life.
Yeah.
I want to also touch on the production design and the little things that you can pick up on throughout that points to its, and you kind of mentioned it, that points to it being a cult, not just their outfits, but also there's a shot when they're walking past the window and you can see a bowl of punch and then the earplugs, and right there instantly the bowl of punch is what actually took me to the Hail Bop
Right.
whole mindset.
Quickly.
And I want to, can you talk a little bit about the importance of those small little details for people to pick up on?
Yeah, because a lot of people don't, they're not really looking at it. And especially with the earplugs, we still get questioned today, what are the earplugs about? And the earplugs are so they can't hear everyone else screaming as they're dying. So it suddenly goes quite dark, but we didn't feel there was need to explain that. I like having it there. People can research that if they want to. The Kool-Aid, the punch bowl. I just like how matter of fact and how nonchalant it is. It's just a punch bowl sitting on the table, and it's there. And then later you see the cult member rolling. He's crushing the pills. That's the writer. That's Ben Bolay. That's the. So yeah, he's crushing the pills, and then later. So these things just are there in the distance. I have to say the production design. I watched the film again for the first time in about a year yesterday in preparation for this, and it really stuck out to me. That was all there. So in the house that I stayed in when I did the location scout, there was this abandoned bus in a field. So I was knocking on the neighbor's door and he would never answer. And I still photographed the bus. And a month later, we finally got hold of him. He said, oh yeah, sure, you can have the bus. You just have to get me a new license because I have to drive the bus. So we spent more time at the DMV in Central Oregon trying to get that bus than we did doing any other kind of production design. But just small things like the alfalfa convenience store, that was all there. Everything was all there. We did put lots of signs up around the store because it was funny because the eclipse was going on in the area, so not all the stuff was there. You had all these eclipse chasers coming to town and they left all these signs. There were fields packed with caravans. It was all there for we just would be taking signs and pulling them up. And just that farm itself, it's called the Alfalfa Farm. The actual farm, I forget the name of the farm, but he had the prize Wagyu beef bull. He had all the pigs, he had all the cows, and the cow horns on top of the water tank. He had that big shed that you opened up and it went into darkness that we just put a car in there. He had everything. It was like a dream. But these were the things found before the script was written. So it was just amazing how they tailored the script to fit the locations that we had.
And you brought up the convenience store. I wanted to ask you about the actors, or are those the actual townspeople or people that were just in town? All the people in the background.
Yeah, they were just there, and word got around that there was going to be a film shot there. That was actually day for night. That was like the last shot of the entire shoot. And so our two measly lights that we had were shining through the window as bright as possible to make it look like daytime. And everyone was really exhausted. And yeah, so that scene was actually meant to continue for a little bit. She was meant to have an altercation with the register at the counter, but we had to wrap it up at that time. And I actually felt that cutting from her saying enough with the fucking drums to the bike riding would be a nice impetus into the third act. So that again, I always think films have an energy and they kind of tell you what they want to be. And I remember on the day knowing I didn't have enough time to shoot it, but it clearly said, no, you can cut from that to the next scene, it will be fine. But yeah, all local people.
And speaking of the drums, and I want to talk a little bit about the sound design for the film, because and you also the earplugs. That the earplugs are perfect for that reveal, because how you do that at the end and the big reveal of him asking, and she just pulls the earplugs out, and it's perfect. So I just wanted to talk a little bit, and then the drums themselves, that whole drum designs. She leaves the thing, and then you have that drum intensity leading up to a lot of intense moments.
So okay, it's all in the script. The drums were basically the scene I just mentioned that we're cutting out the script, that we had to cut out of the convenience store. She ended up saying enough with the fucking drums, because, and the convenience clerk says to her, they're local natives, and they I forget the line in the original screenplay, but it was they play, if they didn't play, then the eclipse would never end. So and that's based on truth. 30 miles up the road is a community of people that have been there for a long time, and that's what they do culturally. And so we adapted that. And so, but also where we were, there was a field like about half a mile away in Madras, which was like a concert. It was like, 100,000 people in the field. They were playing music. So this whole thing is that where the cult is, just over the hill, there are these people banging the drums, playing the music, and slowly that starts to internalize, and she's just hearing it all the time. And then eventually that becomes the score of the film. So it comes from an internal thing to an external thing. And it was funny because we didn't know what to use as score when she was running, but it became so obvious that it should just be the drums in the editing. And then the whoosh, I loved how the subjectivity of the film changes from her POV to his, because we're in his head as he's shouting, what were you going to say? What were you going to say? And she takes it out, and then suddenly we're intimate. What were you going to say? Stay, and I think that works better than Interstellar, frankly. And I love Interstellar, but I just, it was such an amazing moment, but uniquely created by two actors who were both insanely talented but comfortable with each other, and just the film owes everything to those two. They're brilliant.
Yes, they are. And I wanted to also mention, you have another star of the film, and you mentioned it a little bit. There's a bull that and it has a pretty prominent scene, because it is that sign from the universe. And what was it like working with this bull? Because this is a wild bull. You can't expect it to do the exact what you need it to do. Can you talk a little bit?
Very luckily, our first assistant director is Doug Metzer, who was the first AD on Dances with Wolves. He's known as kind of like the wrangler, the outdoors guy. And I had become friends with him because we were meant to do another project that fell apart, but we got to know each other, and he kindly offered up his time. So originally in the script, it's meant to be pigs, because what this cult does is they let all the animals go free before they're about to top themselves. And so it was meant to be pigs. And we got the scene. The car was meant to like kind of break down. We couldn't do that. And she's meant to stop, and then the pigs are meant to go all around the car. And I remember the farmer coming up to us, and he said, in this heat, my pigs will die in 6 minutes. He goes, can you do the scene? I go, we can't do the pigs. I said, what animals could we use? And he goes, well, I got horses, cows, or a bull. I said, well, let's go for a bull. And literally he ran off with his friend into the field and started bringing this 350, I don't even know how much this bull weighed. It was like Jurassic Park. It was ridiculous. He brought this massive bull. And at that moment, Doug, the first AD, just suddenly he clicked. He went, right, everyone behind the car, whoever's not meant to be here, can go away. And in the second take, we didn't know what was going to happen. We just shook the car, and then when we shake the car, that's to say the car has broke, and then look up. Tat was going to look up and then see the bull blocking her path and then run out the back. And I was really proud of the shot. I wanted to push through and go down to the rear view side mirror so we could not cut and we could have this one take moment. And the ball just kept coming towards the car, and it helped the camera move to her side of the face. And I remember everyone, we had our hearts in our mouths as this ball, huge ball, walked past the car. And then what you didn't see was, as Tat was running, the ball starts running beside her. So there's these two people just running, and then the farmers are running after the ball to try and get it back. And you could see in the shot the farmer running, and we had to digitally paint him out because he was running after his ball. But yeah, so yeah.
And then I have to touch on the cinematography of the film.
Aaron.
It's gorgeous, and you're dealing with nature, and you're dealing with a type of lighting that you're normally not gonna get the chance to deal with, where you dip into this weird ambient like darkness, but then there's still that light, enough light for you to film. Can you talk a little bit about the cinematography of this film?
Well, yeah, and just before that, we had gone to Centers for Astronomy, and we had asked people, what's it like? Because there wasn't much reference. And I go, what's the f-stop going to be? Is it going to be completely dark? Is there going to be some light? And so we never really got a sense of what it was going to be. So the focus puller was standing back on a remote focus, and so Jaron himself was going to be on the aperture.
Okay.
Or I think the other way around, actually. Jaron Blansky, he had lit at now he's Oscar nominated, Jaron Blansky, for the Lighthouse.
Yep.
At the time he had done The Witch, which I just fell in love with and just thought it was incredible. And when we met, we connected. He had a real passion for photography, for film photography. And he just said, yeah, sure, I'll do it. And I loved working with him because we came from that same place of wanting to just let the camera tell the story and let the actors be in the frame, especially when you had a script like this, that the actors could be very natural around, and just let that be it. Don't manipulate it. Don't do coverage. Just keep it pretty simple. And Jaron has a way of, I think I'm very visual, and I'm like, no, Jaron, here it is. And Jaron will come up to me and go, that's really good. But what about that? And I'm like, oh, that's pretty good. So, he's wonderful. And he did my next short as well, A Million Eyes. And he's just, he's one of a kind. He's really good. But I think everyone knows that now because he did The Lighthouse. Yeah. Oh, and then the Eclipse, but I have to hand it to him because he operated that scene as well. And that was the first scene which was handheld to keep up with her. And if we had rehearsed it like an hour a day for 4 days before the eclipse. So, you had Doug who had timed everything, and thank God for the apps and the information that NASA gave us. We knew to the second what would happen, when it would happen, and we rehearsed it like a piece of dance choreography. Now, obviously, Tat was genius, but what Jaron did was he had to hold the camera for the entire 5 minutes, but he had to also be in step with her and not trip up. And we had a plan B that if Jaron did trip up, Tat would fall over as well. And that's why we incorporated the limp, because we needed her to slow down because she was running too fast. So we did a lot of things to try and make it up. And the film gets a lot of criticism because everyone's like, well, why didn't she drive back? And I read it all the time. It's hilarious. And I'm like, well, then there wouldn't be a film. But, I can come up with a ton of narrative reasons why she didn't drive back. Namely, there's a 400-pound Wagyu beef bull blocking the car, but on the other side of the road. But essentially what Jaron did to keep up with her, and then to really come down, and then to come back up to see them in that Eclipse shot with the both of them in profile, was just brilliant. He's an amazing cinematographer. He would be too humble to admit that, but he really is.
Yes, he is. It's such an amazing shot, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that one take Eclipse shot, because that eclipse itself lasted 160 seconds. So you have 2 minutes, 40 seconds to make sure you get that shot. You basically have the 4 minutes you have the few minutes of her running up. And then once she gets to the gate, I timed it. It takes her 2 minutes and 20 seconds to run through that whole scene. So like you mentioned, you practice every night. Can you talk a little bit about, you said you added the limp factor. Can you talk a little bit how you did you just do that on the spot and say, start limping now? Because you are.
It was a case of when we had to start her running far enough back for it not to be too boring and for it to just keep that tension going. So we found the right place. There were numerous holes in the ground that I was like, please don't put your foot there. Don't put your foot there. And then the whole thing is when she comes to the gate that's locked, she has to climb over it. So that gives us the permission to go up with her to see the sun. So we knew that was the moment we wanted the sun to get blocked. So we then just basically said, okay, so let's use that as our starting and go backwards. Perfect. And time it out. So we went backwards, timed it out, and that was our point of action. So we knew when we would get up to that. And Doug was behind camera doing the count that he had like 3 or 4 various countdowns. Countdown to the sun, countdown to the opening the gate to the field. Then it was the revealing the 1, 2, 3 bodies, then going to Tom Cullen's body, or what she thought was Tom. And Tom as well was helping the cameraman not trip over any of the bodies. So he was being like a gaffer and then would come and be the actor as well. But that's how we timed it. And there was a lot of pressure. And I don't think anyone really, I certainly didn't realize the pressure that we felt, because it was also on the second from last day of filming. And everyone's efforts, all the money that we had raised, it's not a lot of money, but it's a lot to us. It would have all been for nothing but at no point did anyone ever say, if you don't get this is all for nothing. No one ever really kind of thought about it. And I think part of that, I can obviously only talk about myself, was because I had nothing to lose. Like nothing, no one was calling me at the time. I wasn't getting another movie. And I just felt you got to go for it, and this is your chance to go for it, and that's what we kind of did. The other thing is that we didn't have enough bodies to go onto the blankets, so a lot of the bodies are logs, just logs of wood that we put blankets over, and that's directly homaged from the Heaven's Gate where they all put blankets on each other. And we had a couple of shots of children drinking the Kool-Aid, which I cut out because that went a bit too dark.
A little bit.
Yeah, a little bit too dark. But yeah, so the first blanket she lifts up is my wife lying on the floor. And the second is the cult leader, and then the third is then Tom. And then we did it so, and if I've showed you the raw footage, you're hearing Doug doing the countdown as she touches the hand of who she thinks is Tom, because he's got paint left over on his shirt. And then he grabs the hand, and then they come up together. And then we stopped counting at that point, because I said, when you start to see light hit her face, and all my note was just like the MTV Movie Award kiss of the year. I said, I know it's corny, but the kiss to end all kisses. And because they at the time were in a relationship, they felt that permission to really just have something that was deeply intimate and personal, and a kiss that told a story in itself. I'd rather be here in hell on earth together than alone on an alien world. And when it was over, when I always remember my only note to a director, to myself, is when I want to say cut, add another 10 seconds, because you never know what they'll do. Yeah. So I was going to say cut, and I just counted to 10. I'm glad I did, because the kiss ended nicely. And then when I counted cut, everybody on the crew got up from the blankets, because they had all punched holes in the blankets so they could see the eclipse. Everyone was just spontaneously burst into tears. It was partly, I think, because it was both one of the most profoundly beautiful moments, also because everyone had worked together so hard, cooking and cleaning and sleeping in tents for days with no money to achieve this shot. And lastly, I think it was just because of the pressure of we had to get it done. And everyone cried. And that was a moment I think was I think that's the reward of making the film, was just to have it that moment. And I have to remind myself, I don't think that will ever happen again. And so I'm grateful to have lived for it.
Well, I was gonna say you guys created some great memories there,
Yeah.
and for all those people a part of it, they have something very proud to be proud of because it's such a touching film, and that just being a part of that must be amazing for all of them. I don't care what credit you have to your name in the film industry. That is, you did an
Well,
amazing job.
yeah, you have to get rid of the hero narrative of a director, because at the end of the day, it's meaningless. And I think and that film particularly, it was a thriving collaboration. And if one person didn't perform as brilliantly as they did, the whole deck of cards would have collapsed. And I wouldn't be here having this conversation. I have to say, like, yeah, the festivals are great, but the fact that people talk about this film the way that they do years after is unbelievable, because normally you're begging people to watch your film
Yes.
and saying, and asking them, what do you think? And it's just like, it's a real, and the fact that it just came about so organically, yeah, it definitely wanted to get made, I think.
Well, I love it, and thank you again so
So
much for
thank you.
joining us. Great to see you. I hope eventually in person we'll be able to get together again.
100%.
All
Yeah,
right.
thanks so much.
All right. Take care.
Take care. Bye.